Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. You may notice that I have a different setup now if you're on YouTube. So I have been slowly making changes, as I talked about a few episodes back on those baby step changes, to get to an area that I'm happy with. So I am happier with this setup than I was. It's a little bit more practical for me. It takes up less overall space in the room, and it looks a little better in the background than what I've had in the past. Still not perfect, but I am moving closer and closer and closer each time. This brings us around to our fifth leadership model that we're going to go through. If you count kind of the two-part one, it's maybe you call it the sixth. But this one is about change, and specifically about our resistance to change. And it incorporates a little bit around some of those small baby steps that we talked about. And this one is actually relatively new to me. I feel like I've heard snippets and parts and pieces of it, but my engineered background, I love myself a good equation, and it just makes it go, duh. So giving me buckets and math to kind of work with makes me very happy, and it makes another very simple thing to keep in mind when you're working with yourself and you're working with your team, and to look kind of where we're struggling with the change. So let's get into the model. Again, it's more of an equation, but today's model is called the Beckhard-Harris Formula, and it's a formula for change. It was originally developed by Richard Beckhard and Reuben Harris, hence the Beckhard-Harris. But I'm just going to call it the change equation because me and names, they don't go well all the time. So it is our equation to figure out why we're not changing. So let's get into what the equation is, and then we'll kind of talk about how to use it and how we can make it work for us. So the equation is, it's multiplication, okay? And if we remember our multiplication rules, that if we multiply anything by 0, it is 0. And that's key for this. So I guess it's not an equation, it's more of a formula because there's no equal sign. There we go, my math coming back. Okay, so the first is D times V times F is greater than R. Okay, so if you're writing this down, write it down, okay? So D times V times F is greater than R. And that is what we need to happen in order for change to occur. So let's define our variables here. So D is dissatisfaction. So in order to want to change, we need to have a level of dissatisfaction with the current state. So what's that going to look like? So it can look like being super annoyed every time you can't find something, or it's going to look like getting feedback from your boss, or you giving feedback to an employee enough times that they're saying, oh my gosh, they're not going to stop bugging me about this. I better do something. I better change. Sometimes it's innate within us, and sometimes we have to help them feel things innate within them. And feels like harassing, not harassment. It's not harassment, but it might feel like we're being annoying and nagging. But again, we have to create an environment and create that level of dissatisfaction with the current state. So we don't like where we are. That's the first stage, or the first variable that we need. The second one, the V. This is the vision. All right. So where do we want to go? So I talked a little bit about this in the Small Baby Steps podcast episode, where we need to have a general overall direction. So this could be an annual goal. This could be having an amazing podcast set up where you've got a very clear vision of what's happening or where you want to be. So to use my podcast setup example, I have a somewhat clear, but I will be honest, it is not 1,000 times clear. So in my formula here, I sometimes get a little low in that vision and it demotivates me. I just get stagnant with where I am because I don't know where to go. I don't know where I'm headed. And I'm just like, I don't even know. I can't see it in the situation that I'm in. So therefore I can't move forward with a baby step because I can't see it. So this one becomes very important. And a thing to keep in mind though, is that not everybody has a great ability to have that big vision and the big picture out there. And sometimes we can hold ourselves back from seeing a big vision because we've got programs in our head or those thoughts that cause us to believe that we can't get to this great vision. So we have to have some kind of vision out there in order to make change happen. So you're going to be pulling in your other models to start, particularly that thoughts, feelings, behavior model that was in the first episode of this series, to help people create the vision and to get around some of their own blocks in creating that vision, especially if that vision is 0. If the vision is low, you still want to clarify it some more. Sometimes being able to go see the space that you're going to be having the setup in can help get a good visual for it as well. Whatever you can do to get that V off of 0 is huge. And the third letter, this one I struggle with personally on a lot of things, is the first steps. If you might be dissatisfied, you might have a huge vision, but if you can't see where to start or what the next logical step is, then you're not going to move because it's just going to feel like this lofty concept, this idea that you're never going to get to and you can't see there from here. So all of this, when you multiply them together, must be greater than the R, which is resistance. Okay, let's talk about resistance for a minute. We can talk a lot about what's getting in the way. And when we're talking about change, it's those resistors that stop us from doing it. And many, many, many times they're inside. There might be like a physical resistance, but most of the time, especially when we're talking this equation, those resistance points are coming from within. So going back, you got to go back to that first thoughts, feelings, behaviors model and start to figure out, okay, what is going on? What are your thoughts every time we talk about this change? What do you feel in your body? You might, let's say I'm trying to do my podcast setup again. If I have resistance to it, because maybe I think I can't do it. I think, and this is actually true, I think I don't know how to decorate. Kind of true. Very, very deep-seated belief. I don't have a lot of experience with decorating, but what can I do? I can work to either raise the one side of the equation or lower the resistance. Okay, so if I can't get over that belief that I can't decorate things, then how can I have a better vision? Okay, I can pull up some Pinterest videos. I can get a really good idea, or ChatGPT does pretty amazing things. I actually put this image into ChatGPT and I said, hey, make it look better with some suggestions. And it gave me a visual picture of what it could look like. So I have some vision. What I really need now is what are those first steps to get there? Because now I can see a vision, but I'm so far from there. So because I can't lower my resistance to change or whatever those resistance things are, I'm going to get excited about the vision and I'm going to be very clear on the first steps. Or I'm going to increase my dissatisfaction in some way, which sometimes can be easier and sometimes can be harder because sometimes we're just trying to trick ourselves into it. But you can really dig in with a team member if you're trying to work on that increasing the D part. You can work with them and say, okay, well, what don't you like about it? How does that feel every single time you can't just sit down and start recording? How does it feel every single time when you look at the video and you're saying, I just hate how it looks? Or gosh, I have this dark shadow on my face and I need to figure that part out. So you can just start to really highlight some of those dissatisfiers, which would then increase that too. So you can, again, keep working on that end and then also trying to work on maybe those internal resistors. So that could look like, let's talk about some times when you have decorated something. Well, I watched some videos about decorating like shelves and things for Christmas last year, and I put together a nice little shelf space thing. And now I can see how these things would work together and look nice. And actually, I had done that. So now I'm slightly less resistant of it because I have experience having done it. Okay, so let's put this all together because I'm going to keep this episode nice and short, but also wrap up the series within it. But I love simple equations for this. When you're looking to change, when you're looking to put a plan together, you want to hit on each of these pieces of this equation or formula so that you can understand where the gap is. Because so many times myself, my team members, my clients, you can say, what's getting in the way? And sometimes we can't pinpoint it. So you can guide them as a leader through each of these letters. So, okay, well, let's talk about your current situation. So again, this goes back to the change model, right? Getting them off of that contemplative part into action, but get them understanding where they're dissatisfied with it. Really dig into that. And if you can ascertain that's greater than 0, then you're good. If you can increase it, then good. Then the next, okay, well, what could it be? If we removed all barriers, where could you be? Okay, so let's get a real view. Okay, well, what would that look like? What would you be doing? What would those behaviors be like? So you want them to get as clear of a vision as you can, because the clearer that we can get. So if it's, creating an image on ChatGPT or finding something on Pinterest or somewhere on the internet and really just seeing it and saying, this is the vision. This is how I want it to be. Or if you're talking about processes running smoother, this is the vision. And if they can't see anything, if that's 0, then they're not going to move and they're going to be very demotivated. It's just not going to work. And then you want to get that very clear first step. Now, this is something I am learning about myself really well right now, I will say, is the smallest point that you can make that first step, the better chance you are that someone's going to take it. We've said in the past that it's, so small you could trip over it. But it's just, if you really think about it, what is the literal first thing that you need to do? Like for me, for this setup here, the first thing was I had to clear this corner out. Okay, sounds crazy, but it's like, okay, but I even broke it down farther and I just said, this box, I'm going to move it over here. And then I had a place to put things. So I moved a box. Like literally I broke it down to that level of step for myself so that I could make another step. And you can do that with processes, with personal changes, with anything. Like making that first step incredibly small lowers your resistance to it, because it's like, well, duh, I can move a box. Of course I can move a box. So again, making these things that can raise your awareness of your steps, right? In order to get that equation rolling. All right. So as you're working with your team, when you can keep these things in mind, so you're keeping in mind that our thoughts get in our way. Sometimes we have feelings that come up like that nervousness, anxiousness. So all of that drives the behavior. So we understand that one. Then we talked about the ABC model. So this antecedent, behavior, consequences. Sometimes that antecedent or the clarification of the goal isn't as clear as it should be. And sometimes we observe a behavior and we give no consequence, which is a positive consequence. And, which creates less resistance or less dissatisfaction with the current situation. So you're kind of thinking through that process as well to increase this side of the equation. And I'm going to remember which one we talked about. You can use the GROW model, which was that coaching, to talk through why aren't we doing it? And some of your questions, if you utilize the GROW model, you can follow the DVF sort of questioning. So you can say, well, how dissatisfied you are, and sort of kind of get through that questioning. And then you can say, well, what's your vision for it? What are you really feeling about it? And then you can start saying, okay, well, what would be the first steps? And so you can use that questioning, that GROW model as a guide for how you can question and dig and really find the root cause. And then you can say, okay, well, if we did this, would you be able to do it right? Would you be able to do the change? Awesome. And then putting all of that in with the stages of change, knowing that you're going to have to go through that pre-contemplation, getting it like before when they don't know what they don't know, moving them into contemplation, and then all the way around that lovely little curve, all the way to maintenance mode. So again, this equation applies into that whole model as well, because they're going to have these feelings inside of them, or they're going to have to keep on moving forward. And being aware of where they are in this equation can help get through some of that. All right. If you enjoyed this model series, please share it with a friend. We'll create a playlist on YouTube so that you can just go and listen to the whole thing. And we'll probably slide our delegation model in there as well. But you can really start to take I like to say an objective view to how you can help yourself and help others change. Because so many times we just say, I don't know why I can't do it. I just can't. I'm wired this way. Or I've said this one before, it's my MO. I just tend to fall apart here. Okay, well, why? What is it? Can we pinpoint it? Is it too much resistance? Is it not enough dissatisfaction? Is it some thought that we have that's gotten in our way? Or is it that we don't even know where to start? So if we can just figure it out, then our solution becomes that much simpler and we can help more people. We can get the results that we want and we can have happy, productive teams. If you enjoyed the episode and the series, please like it, share it with a friend, leave a review or comments on the YouTube video, and I will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.